We all heard the news that President-elect Donald Trump said, to simplify it a little bit, the construct of NATO is obsolete. And we've heard and read in the Washington Post, I think it was 2 days ago, that the Trump team expects the EU to fall apart this year. Would you like to comment on that?
Dear Mr. Wichmann, dear Member of European Parliament, Viviane Reding, dear DLD participants, ladies and gentlemen, I think after World War II, for which Germany was and is responsible, the NATO and the European community, today the European Union, are the two main bodies, the two main networks, the two main associations we have developed, we need and we have to support. So the NATO, for me as a German, as a European, is an important, an credible and an relevant associations we have to support ongoing with the United States, hopefully.
But they don't want, obviously.
One president has sent via Twitter a message.
It's just not one president, and we're used to these Twitter
But I'm sure his government and his advisors know why and how important the NATO is ongoing. But one point, we as Germans, we as Europeans have to do more. In a NATO, we have a clear agreement. 2% of our GDP has to be invested year by year into these services. And Germany is investing 1.2, 1.3%. That's not enough. We must know that all of our challenges around Europe, from Libya to Mali, from Palestine to Afghanistan, is our neighborhood and not the neighborhood of the US. So I think it's a warning call coming from DC. I'm sure the US will stay in our NATO, but we have to do more, we have to invest better, we have to be more engaged as we have been in last decades.
So, Mr. Oettinger, what you say is that basically you differentiate between the opinion Donald Trump has and what the future administration is going to do. So you don't take him serious?
I do. He is elected. But I'm sure he has to hear and to learn and to get information and background. So let's wait and see. I'm quite relaxed. The US have been and will be our most important partner globally.
Okay. This year there will be elections in the Netherlands, there will be elections in France, there will be elections in this country, in Germany, and I think there will be elections in Italy too. In all four countries there are very strong movements that basically fundamentally question, if not bluntly reject, the concept of the European Union. Is it exaggerated to say that the very existence of the EU is under threat for the first time in its history?
Yes, I think so. We are in a dangerous situation. But I'm quite optimistic that at the end of the day, in all of these member states, democratic European people will be in the government. In Netherlands, maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 parties without Wilders. In France, hopefully Fillon or Macron. In Germany, I think Christian Democrats and Social Democrats have a good offer to our citizens, Liberals as well, Greens, yes, indeed. So AfD is one part of our German system with 10, 12, 14%. But
for the American guest, that's the German version of Marine
alternative
Le Pen's,
for Germany,
National.
AfD. But I'm sure pro-European people will have a majority in all of these member states.
Do you, I mean, you're part of that European Union which is rejected suddenly by so many people. Do you somehow feel responsible for that as a politician in Brussels?
We are responsible.
In as much?
We are deciding day by day good things, difficult things. We are failing, no doubt, but I'm sure our European Union of 28 member states, with some candidates as Serbia is, was the best idea after World War II, coming from Monnet and Schuman and de Gaulle and Gasperi and Adenauer. And we have good reasons for to fight and for to deepen our European Union.
But with the knowledge of today, as EU Commissioner for Digital Economy and Society, as the EU Commissioner for Trade, what would you have done different? What would you do different to avoid a situation like the situation is right now, when you said we have made mistakes? What was the major mistake you did in the last years?
Not a mistake, but a development we have to stabilize. In 2004, 10 new countries came into our EU. Afterwards, 2 additional and Croatia. 13 new member states. Maybe it was much, maybe it was early, but take Slovakia, Czech Republic, Poland, Hungary, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, take Bulgaria, Romania and Croatia. If they would not be in our European Union, they would be hanging as Ukraine, Belarus, Armenia, Georgia and others are doing. So we integrated them. It was a lot. It was a huge challenge. We need 10 more years for to stabilize the European Union, but it was the right decision there times, because it was the only one for to come to a united Europe as we have it today.
But those are the internal factors you're mentioning. Let's talk, and let me ask you about the external factors. Let me ask you when we talk about instability and the increasing instability the European Union seems to suffer of. Let me talk about the role, when it comes to instability, the role of Russia, the role of Turkey, and the future role of the United States for the European Union and its instability. What role does Russia play in creating an unstable situation here in Europe?
Russia is powerful.
We all know that.
It's not a regional power, it's a global power, but the Russian economy is so weak. Turkey, in my mind, is losing its own future. Nobody is investing in Ankara, Istanbul, Izmir today. Take our industries. Turkey was a #1 location. Now, nobody as an investor is willing to go to Turkey. So I think President Putin, President Erdogan, they are playing a risky game.
But you're saying they are playing this game.
Yes,
they are playing this
they
game.
are playing a risky game. And in the long term, they are losing the future of their kids.
To turn to the topic that you have left your mark on in the last 2 years, Mr. Oettinger, let's talk about your time as the Digital Commissioner for a second. There are those who say, well, Guenther Oettinger set a lot in motion, and I'm mentioning now just a few things. I'm thinking of the digital single market strategy, I'm thinking of the network neutrality topic, I'm thinking about the Industry 4.0, you did a lot on that, and the European copyrights, of course, which is important, especially in this realm here. But there are others who say, well, Guenther Oettinger, he set a lot in motion, but he achieved very little. What do you answer?
I did my best.
That's a good answer.
Maybe it wasn't enough.
That's a good answer.
2 years are a short time, but we did a lot for to Europeanize digital policies together with the Parliament and for digitize our industries. And therefore, we proposed a lot of legal and political projects. It's an ongoing and difficult challenge, but the Parliament now is taking the lead. Not all policies to Europeanize is appreciated from our member states, but to Europeanize digital policies is accepted from Berlin to Paris, from Den Haag to Rome. So I'm quite optimistic. And to come to a European digital single market, 500 million citizens, one data protection regulation, one cybersecurity strategy, one cross-border broadband strategy, one copyright, is our aim, and therefore I think we developed all we need. It's on the table of Council and Parliament, and now they have to decide.
Let's pick one specific topic. Many Americans are here, many people not from Europe, and many of our American friends suggest that the Europeans' insistence on such topics as the level playing field, for example, in reality simply have to do with pure protectionism, as Europe is not innovative enough and is too slow. What do you answer? Is that true, or is it not true?
I think it's not true.
Why?
We have one single market for cars, for beverage, for textiles, for devices, and so on. And it's a good thing for GE and GM to know there's one standard all over Europe for to export cars or machines, whatever else. So GE and GM know how Europe is functioning. And same, we are developing for the digital sector. One regulation, one standard, cross-border all over Europe, Switzerland, Norway associated. Not against anybody, but as a clear fundament for all people and companies willing to invest to export to Europe. So in the past we had 28 different data protection regulations. And people from outside could see where the standard is the lowest. Dublin, Berlin, Stuttgart.
And they went to that place.
And they invested in Dublin, being in the European market, and taking our
That's
data.
not the fault of the
Not at all.
company, it's the fault of the regulators.
That's the option. But now we have one European data protection
And this
regulator.
is good.
And I think so it's value added for our European investors and citizens, but for external as well.
There are a lot of really smart people out there who are very concerned about the changes that they go one step further and say the big four, Scott named this morning, the big four meaning Google, meaning Amazon, Facebook and Apple are actually a threat to the continued existence of our societies. You can now speak freely, Mr. Oettinger. You're in between jobs. You're no longer responsible for the digital society. So why don't you just tell us very openly, is Google's claim to power a danger for the common good or not?
I don't think so.
Why?
I think
Surprises me.
And Google's services are appreciated as a search machine, as a platform, whatever else. But what we need are clear rules and no discrimination and no monopoly. So we need competition, we need clear rules. Everybody from inside and outside Europe has to accept our rules. And if we are developing European digital rules, I'm sure we can say Google is a part of our society, of our industries, without discrimination, and they have to accept competition, and they have to avoid operative measures which are dominant and or against our European players.
Let's move to the third part, and I think we have space for two more questions, okay? Is that okay? Two more questions? Your new role as EU Commissioner for Budget and Human Resources. Let's simplify your future portfolio a little bit. On the asset side, you have a major problem, Mr. Oettinger, as the Brits want to leave the EU, and the Brits have always paid more in than they took out. So you have fewer assets to manage in the future. So where do you intend to make some savings?
Indeed, the Brexit is a major problem for Europe.
And for you as responsible for the budget.
For Europe, but mainly for UK itself. UK is damaging his economic future via leaving the European Union. But we have to deal with this democratic decision. We have to accept it, and we need a fair solution. We have to wait and see what is happening. Prime Minister May will send us a letter maybe end of March. Then we can read first expectations and priorities from her. We are willing to be fair. We are preparing these negotiations in the best manner. UK is a net payer with maybe 7, 8, 9 billion euro a year. There are two fundamental options. Option one would be to say the rest of the net payers have to pay it all.
Is that an option?
The option B
we could create some headlines now.
The option B would be to say there is one net payer leaving the EU, the money is away. And I think we need a balanced solution in between. In between. Not A or B, nothing fundamental. We need some money, but we should know if UK is leaving the EU, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Germany can't pay this amount of money by 100%.
But you know, you could create some headlines now. If you were simply to repeat after me, I shall massively cut the European agricultural budget. Come on. Yeah, especially here in Bavaria, where, come on.
I think here in this wonderful hall is nearly nobody from a rural area. Nobody producing meat, producing potatoes, tomatoes, producing wine. And no doubt, if you are in the Black Forest, I'm from Stuttgart, you need some money to produce wine or to produce meat or to produce other products. So to stabilize our rural areas as a kind of a culture, we need European money. So I have a problem not to follow you by 100%. Mm-hmm. We have to stabilize our budget, not more money, but maybe to have a stable relationship between us and our rural areas on the long term.
But does this topic, the topic of the budget, not pose a fundamental and quite different question actually? Namely the question, what do we stand for in Europe? What is important to us? What kind of Europe do we want? For what do we want to spend money? So what's your vision of Europe?
Let me say, I'm coming from Baden-Württemberg, and there's one thing I'm quite proud: investment in research and development. In our EU, we are saying we need 3% of our GDP. We have actually 2%. In Baden-Württemberg, we have 4.9%. Bavaria, 4.5%.
People, for those of you not from Germany, people from Baden-Württemberg are very proud of being from Baden-Württemberg.
I would like to take more money on a European level to invest in research.
But you're not saying whole Europe should be like Baden-Württemberg?
Why not?
Ja, war gut. Sorry.
I see Mr. Buddha. He is living in Munich, but he is coming from
loves the
Offenburg,
idea.
from Baden,
Okay.
a wonderful liberal region near to Strasbourg, a European-minded region, so why not?
But out of respect for our non-German guests, we should not go into details and discuss the differences between Baden and Württemberg. Ladies and gentlemen, this man, whom I have to thank a lot for this frank and open and interesting interview, is going to stay on stage, and I'm very happy now to call and introduce other people on stage for a kind of a reality check from the industry, protagonists from the industry. Mr. Oettinger, you will now be joined by Jules Urbach from Auteuil, Liberty Global's Lutz Schüler and Dominik Escovier from the media. And the next panel is going to be moderated by Dennis Berman, you know already, my colleague from the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Oettinger, thanks a lot for this very entertaining and interesting interview.